Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a little bit about my last week in games. And last week has not been an easy week, two culprits for that. Number one, my real life job, it's been pretty busy there. I've had to work pretty hard to keep things under control. And number two, the crazy weather in Belgium. We keep playing with 30 degrees Celsius, it's always sunny out. So for a lot of people it's an incredible summer. For a gamer like myself it's a little bit too hot. And next week promises to be even warmer. We call it a heat wave when we get 3 days straight of 30 degree plus temperatures, and it looks like we'll have that. So I'll try my best, but it's not the easiest time to get lots of gaming in. I did play a little bit of EVE Online, definitely less than average, but in the first part of the week I managed to do a little bit of exploration. Also tried some exploration with the Stellaris, which is quite interesting, and a video of that is coming next week as well. And then in the second part of the week we actually got hit by an incursion in Tital, so that's when I slowed things down a little bit. It was also the pre-patch for Battle for Azeroth, so as a whole I did play less than average EVE Online, but we are getting really close now for the Golem. One problem, Caldari Battleship 5 is not trained up yet, that's still 30 days out, so it's basically going to be delayed by about a month before I actually buy my Golem. But I've also started on some of the precursor ship skills and things like that, so perhaps at some point I'll be able to try those ships out as well, because they are quite interesting. And things to look forward to in EVE Online is of course the big war. We're hoping that in Nullsec the action will continue, that we'll see lots of destruction, because for us high-sec Care Bears that means more demand, more minerals that get destroyed, and thus we get better prizes for our activities in EVE Online. It's also summertime. Summertime for me is prep time. That means that you know, I do take a look at what I find in EVE Talk, and then sometimes try to make some investments depending on the situation there. There are definitely great buys to be made at this point, and my horizon for all of those investments tends to be the winter, because that's where we're usually at a higher point, higher activity, higher destruction, higher everything in the game as well. But this is the right time to look very closely at the market and to do the right buys, I think, if you're an active trader in EVE Online. Next up we have the World of Warcraft. So basically the pre-patch came out for the Battle for Azeroth. It's been somewhat interesting, definitely not problem free there, so even a major company like Blizzard cannot bring out patches 100% perfectly. You know, an MMO is such a complex thing that there will always be some problems when you change things drastically, especially with stuff like a stat squish. Pretty funny story, apparently somewhere in Mists of Pandaria there are some small elephants that still war stomp people for like 50,000 damage, one-shotting everyone. Same problem with some of the bosses and things like that, so it's definitely been a mixed experience for lots of players. For me personally, it's been rather okay. I still kept doing some world quests here and there. Unfortunately they completely nerfed my gold income. The items on my follower now make like 5 and 12 gold or something like that. So that's been squished as well, and is quite unfortunate, but you can now basically keep grinding out awakening essences through the world quests, through your follower missions and things like that, and then you can choose which legendary that you want to buy. So if you still want to have like 2 great legendaries for your class before you plan to level up in Battle for Azeroth itself, for instance, so you're trying out a completely new class or you're deciding on a completely new class, you have a very easy way of catching up to those legendaries and getting the best in-slot items. On top of that, next week we will normally have the new story, the what is it called? War of Thorns, I think it's called, where we'll have a different set of world quests that will also allow you to very easily catch up in gear and get ready for the expansion. So I do look forward to those scenarios, to the new content there. And I've also, you know, been playing with war mode on Ragnaros. I do think that the Horde dominates a little bit, although I must say I've also seen some nice alliance groups here and there, which I've been able to avoid, but I also got my first war mode kill when a hunter engaged me. He managed to get me down. I think marksman has that crazy range advantage, but I do have some nice engineering toys like the kite, which allowed me to get away from him. He chased after me, I managed to heal up and then actually kill him. So it's been pretty interesting. There's definitely a different vibe now since the pre-patch with war mode compared to the vibe of Legion itself, where everyone was basically working together to defeat the Legion. That is a little bit gone. Sometimes around world bosses and things like that, you do see small skirmishes between the Horde and the Alliance. So it's a very nice addition in my opinion, brings back a little bit of conflict and is a nice precursor to what might be happening in the Battle for Azeroth itself. And then for my final game, I also played a little bit of Stellaris. I've been continuing my Exterminator playthrough with the Dark Kernel, and I've basically learned a lot of very interesting lessons there, such as specialization in Stellaris is actually very powerful, and what I've been doing with the Dark Kernel is focus completely on getting my fleet numbers up. That's always been my problem when I reach like an end-game conflict. I never really managed to get to the fleet sizes that I need in order to counter those, and this time all of my spaceports, all of my star bases, I think they're called, have full anchorages just to get as much capacity out there as possible, which at this point results in me having like a dozen fleets that are at full strength but still need to be upgraded massively through technology. But yeah, I've got this massive fleet power which has allowed me to start wars on multiple fronts and really expand the Dark Kernel territory. You know, I've already exterminated 2 races. Now I'm going after the mercenaries that are nearby, and then I think we'll have to deal with some federations that are starting to form. But it's a very interesting playstyle. I've always felt like you've got the most options when you're an exterminator, and the ability to just declare war and steamroll everything is definitely a major advantage when you're playing as an exterminator. But it does mean that you have to have the military means for that, and so I'm completely foregoing stuff like the habitats. I'm basically focusing on grabbing all the planets that I can, creating a massive sector so that I don't go over my limit, and then just pump out fleets, start wars with the neighbors, and try to just grab all that territory. And I've managed to do quite well, I feel, with this Dark Kernel. So this is a very powerful playstyle that is completely lacking in defense as well. My star bases are not strong at all, but all of them give me a lot of fleet capacity, and so when you can then start to put your fleets in defensive positions when you're not at war, and then prepare a massive group of them for your actual war effort, that does work well. And I'm basically far more powerful far earlier in the game than I've ever been, and I think if I keep going like that, I can basically I think win the game well before we get an end-game conflict. And if I choose not to do that, which would be like the 40% planets, of course, it's a very easy way to do that as an exterminator, then I do think that I can get really powerful and powerful enough to deal with end-game crises this time. So interesting stuff, and definitely something to remember, that focus on a single on the main aspect of your empire does make you very strong, potentially, if you choose the right one. And the exterminators with fleet size is really strong. And that's it for this week, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time.